This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Marty, and I'm here from the Accelerator team at Robson Nadler doing the next episode of Business Stuff, and I'm joined today by someone most of you will surely recognise, Alfie Joey. Hi, Alfie.
Good to see you. Thanks, Marty, for asking me.
No worries at all. And we're here to talk about, the topic is changing lanes. It's about how you deal with change, whether it's in business, life, jobs, careers. And the reason I asked you here, Alfie, is 3 years ago you did a TEDx talk in Newcastle on changing lanes. Can you just give people a 60-second summary of what we mean by that?
So basically, I realised every 10 years I'd change jobs or roles quite massively, quite big.
Quite diverse as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you waited tables then became a chef.
It was a big jump each time, and it was a heart and mouth situation. It was a risk each time, but each time I did it, it was worth it. And it was a risk, but it was a big jump, but I did it. And I often think if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't have been as happy. I'd have been stuck. And that's why I call that talk Changing Lanes, because everybody hates the middle lane driver. You know, you can cope with the slow driver because that's their choice. The fast driver knows where they want to be. The middle lane driver is the one who's hesitant, doesn't know whether they want to be slow, doesn't know whether they want, and they get stuck. Yeah. And they hold everybody else up and they annoy you a bit. And we've all got a friend who we know
complains about their job every day and has done for 25 years.
Absolutely, and you go, you've got so much potential. You know you can go and take that next step. You can do it. But sometimes people settle for that. If it's your choice and you're happy, fine. But if you're not happy, ask yourself why and take some steps, and I bet you can change lanes. And I'm doing it myself again.
Because you very kindly at the end of that talk said if you haven't got someone you can talk to who will help you talk through this change, reach out. Yeah, talk to me.
People did,
Did anyone actually?
They did. In fact, as soon as I came out of the talk, somebody followed me and said, "Can I have a cup of tea with you now?" And I literally, that very day after that talk, sat down with the guy for an hour.
So you hit home straight away.
Absolutely, and I mean it. However,
so he's now a striker for Spurs.
He's outside now. He follows me everywhere.
Oh.
No. So basically, I made that pledge, knowing that most people in their lives do have a positive voice. I said, listen to the positive voices. The teacher, the motivator, the person who gives you that shot in the arm. Yeah. There's always somebody like that. Very often there's somebody who's negative and goes, you don't want to do that. Just who do you think you are?
Keep your head down.
Yeah, why would you want to do that? Don't listen to them. Listen to the positive voices, and those are the people that I sometimes take the place of. But I'm more than happy to leave it to them because I think we've all got a lot of them in our lives. Just tuning into those people.
It's interesting because you mentioned, obviously, as any good media person would do, they do research, and you mentioned you'd listen to a part of the self-sabotage episode.
Yeah.
So what you're actually saying is recognise them, but within those there is another voice there saying, go on, give it a go.
Yeah.
And do you find just most people just ignore that then? Or?
I think a lot of people do. I think there's a lot of people just settle for mediocrity, even not in a, I'm not being rude, mediocrity can sometimes
not that they are mediocre,
enough. But they're not mediocre. They go, that'll do. Why not take it to the next level? Because that feels so much better. I've found that even with the radio shows I've done and with comedy gigs I've done and with plays I've done, there will be people say, well, that'll do. That's enough. Yeah. That's enough rehearsal, isn't it? Why not make it really good?
Because there's plenty of things you've done that would petrify a lot of people, and we'll probably come on to some of these things. But I love me cultural references, and there's a great line in, I think it's a George Clooney film, where he's going around laying people off, Up in the Air or something it's called.
Yeah.
And he's saying to one guy, he said, how much did they pay you to give up on your dreams?
Yeah.
He's on about where you've got the corporate job now, you've got the house, the mortgage, the car. how much did it cost to give up on your dreams? And what you're kind of saying is, well, obviously take an appropriate risk, but don't give up on your dreams. Because for people who haven't listened to the TED Talk and who might not listen to the TED Talk, you did, in summary, 10 years training to be a monk.
15. So
15?
well, I 15 years in religious life, and I thought that's all I was ever going to do, and I never thought, and it's a long story, but I was sure when I was very young that that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't from a religious family. My mum and dad found it my dad was a coal miner. So it was like the Billy Elliot story. He thought it was very strange, but off I went, and I did that for 15 years. And it was a very odd thing that really gave me, I thought, I'm not able to be a professional comedian. That doesn't happen to kids where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell this in the TED Talk, but I was best man for a wedding when I was still in the monastery.
Right.
And I'd been 2 years a school chaplain in Liverpool. And a mate of mine was the nephew of Eddie Braben. Eddie Braben wrote all of the Morecambe and Wise scripts. Well, when I was a kid, everybody loved Morecambe and Wise. It was a Christmas thing. You just watched Morecambe and Wise, and they were perfect. Yeah. They were just a beautiful double
they're
act.
up there with the two Ronnies for me. I think it's probably
brilliant.
Never to be bettered. I mean, Ant and Dec are great, but to be fair, these guys were next level.
And they were next level because Eddie Braben was the and in Morecambe and Wise. He wrote every word they ever delivered.
And so you're giving a best man speech to the nephew of
Eddie Braben.
So
and he says,
a lad who's used to funny.
Yes, but Uncle Eddie is very used to it. And he said, listen, Uncle Eddie's going to be there.
Oh, no pressure.
He said he never laughs. don't let that put you off.
Yeah.
Well, I became absolutely obsessed. I now did the best man speech for Eddie Braben, not for Stuart and Jane anymore. I thought, I'm going to make Eddie Braben laugh. I have to make Eddie Braben laugh. I rehearsed and rehearsed. I had hats, wigs, a cassette. I put a soundtrack together. I handmade brochures for each table, and I did Best Man Speech, the musical. I did their life story with characters, impressions, wigs, did the whole... It was like an episode of Morecambe and Wise.
You did the full shebang, then, didn't you?
I did about 20 minutes.
You did a sketch show, and you did all the sketches.
Yeah. And Eddie Braben led the standing ovation. And he come over to me, and he said, he's Scouser, what do you do, mate? And I said, I'm a monk. As you do.
You must have thought that was another joke, sure.
He just brushed it aside, and he said, forget that, show business. And I thought, wow. Morecambe and Wise has spoken to me that it's possible now, and that's one of those positive voices. I'd never thought that was possible. It would have been
easy to ignore that, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Just to bring it back to the moral here.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy to go, but he's probably just being nice.
Yeah.
He's just being kind. I did the best man for his nephew.
Yeah.
It's just being kind.
He followed it up. He sent me photographs of me in the speech doing like kicks in the air and doing little impressions and moves, and he caught the essence of it, and I thought, wow, he believed in me, and he doesn't laugh, but he laughed.
And comedy's his business.
Yes, it was his life.
Because comedians often talk about how they watch other comedians, but not in the same way that us mortals do. Yeah. and I say that with, again, because I think comedian, other than possibly a lead singer, a solo singer, I'm not sure there's any other gig where you control the entire atmosphere entirely on your words and actions. Well, there aren't many jobs like that, are there?
I'd say definitely in the arts, it's the hardest. It's the bottom rung of the ladder of the arts.
As in the least respected,
or
the
you wouldn't tell a stripper to get off your crap, but you'd tell a comedian.
Yes,
and I've been told.
I've been to some bands at Pilo Social that were paid off at part time.
Yes, but the difference is, with a singer or Shakespeare, you'll get a clap at the end, pretty much nailed on, usually.
Whereas
with
comedian
comedy,
gets silence.
The comedy, the benchmark isn't the clap at the end, it's the laughter during.
Yes.
And if people don't laugh, you've failed. And you know pretty early on.
Yes, you can make people think, you can have social commentary, but if it's not funny, you failed.
And if me and you watched Fools and Horses or something now, the graphs of our laughter would be different, because everybody's is different.
Yeah.
But sometimes an audience can work together and just not laugh. And sometimes you go and you think, oh, tough audience tonight.
Yeah.
I've got to work a bit harder, or let them come to me a bit and play different tricks.
And again, a negative person might say, well, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to, you know, any great comedians you ever watch, they say, well, we've all died.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We've all had those nights where you think,
Absolutely,
what am I doing?
Yeah.
Or you've drove, you know, I can't remember who it was now, I was speaking, I think it was Jimmy Carr, watched
Yeah.
the podcast he was on, he said, you know, you drive 3 hours to do a show for 20 quid. You drive 3 hours home and you didn't get any laughs.
Yeah.
You think,
I did
do it again tomorrow, you know?
A line dancing club with Jimmy in, it was awful, Sunday night in Hastings, and it was 2001 or something. And
a line dancing
it was
club.
awful, you know, it was just, they were kicking toys out the way, and they just cleared the stage, and it was where the, you know, Scouts hut or a line dancing club one night and yoga the next.
Oh, so like community hall type thing, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to do the bad gigs so you can get good at the good gigs.
Yeah. That's why you sharpen your skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, then so again, this, as always, there's loads we could talk about here. So Uncle Eddie said, give it a go, and you listened. How long did it take then to get? Because I know in the TED talk you talk about how you went back to the, I don't know what this hierarchy is in the monkestry, but the guy above, you kind of went, actually, I think I like this.
I love this comedy,
And they were supportive as well, which
they were great.
Which is really
I left on
interesting.
good terms, and I'm still friendly with lots of them, and it worked.
What was the next step then? Just and the reason I'm talking about this then for any listeners or viewers is lockdown forced people to change who might not have changed. Some, though, I think are still stuck in the old normal, to use an awful cliched term now, but they haven't found their new normal yet, I think. And the Great Resignation is a great example of this. It's like, you know, a third of the population have quit in the last, whatever it is, year. So there's a lot of people, a lot have changed, but there's still a lot of these people in that middle lane, isn't there?
Yeah,
so
there are.
What gave you the confidence to chase that then, apart from Uncle Eddie?
I'd never had, the first time I did stand-up comedy, I was loving the process of it, and I did a course at university in it, and I was still at the monastery, but I was thinking, I've never felt anything like this before, writing comedy and doing sketches and all that. I'm loving it. And then we did comedy in a stand-up club in North London.
As part of the course?
Yeah, that was the culmination of the course.
And was that when you...
Alan Carr was on the same night, Angelo Sepethemu was my best mate, and it was a bit like, you know, Bob Paisley won the European Cup and Liverpool, and they're all drinking champagne, and they go, Bob, drink some of that, and you went, no, I'm feeling something like that, booze can't give me, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And it was similar. I not felt any. I woke up the most nervous I've ever been that morning. I felt sick, I was on the toilet all day, and then I remember jabbing the wall before I went on, and they went,
trying, like, get the adrenaline up.
I went out and I had a great gig, and I felt nothing like it, and I floated. Everybody was going off, going, come on, we're all going out the power now. I'm walking home, walking miles.
I'm going to float home.
Yeah. And I thought, I want more of that. And because what's interesting there is you said, by any measure, you had an awful day. Yeah. But the buzz outweighed the awfulness.
So the buzz did, but you didn't know that until you did it.
And then what happens is, that's awesome. But then you go and play Two Blokes in a Whippet in a bar in Crystal Palace, and it's dreadful. About 2 gigs later.
Well, you shouldn't have called the show Two Blokes in a Whippet. Who's going to come and see that?
He's on in the middle. It was just that ride. So you have a bad gig, and you want to put it right very quickly. So you book another one in as soon as you can, because you can't. That feeling's so bad. Yeah. So if ever you have a bad, and when you start out, you play lots of ropey rooms, that you shouldn't have comedy in. You get there, they go, well, there's no microphone here. You're all right with that?
You're all right to shout. Well, he's going to shut up then.
Yeah. So you do loads of cheap, rubbish, awful gigs, but it's the camaraderie and the crack that gets you through. But also it's the writing new bits and I want to get better. So
because for anyone, anyone watching this to think, what's this got to do with business?
Yes.
This is business.
It was my business.
This is designing tables.
Yep.
This is trying to get a service right, trying to serve the right coffee.
I was
a skill to be honed.
I was absolutely honing a skill, and all the time I did it, I had multiple jobs. So I was living in London. I left the monastery.
Because no one's a full-time comedian for the first
2 or 3, 4 years. I realised I was a professional comedian. It didn't just happen overnight. I just realised I couldn't fit me other day jobs
you
in.
Didn't need that shift
selling sandwiches, working in Harrods as a toy demonstrator. I was a bicycle courier, delivering blood to Harley Street from Booper on the Gray's Inn Road. And I knew the knowledge. I'd be exhausted cycling all day and then going out doing gigs at night, shattered. But I loved it that much. I wanted to get better, and then gradually you think, how did I end up here? I've got a residency.
Because this is the interesting thing. I've always, you hear it in interviews with bands, you hear it in interviews with business people, anyone who is huge, they go, wow, where did you come from? You're like, I'll tell you where I came from. Actually, I came from all of these ropey play. And there's no such thing as overnight, is there?
Well, this is what a lot of people say, how did you get into that club? As if you snuck in the back door. How did you get to work for him? How did you?
It's because you did the 20 ropey ones on the build-up.
But nobody wants to hear that answer. Steve Martin, one of my favourite comedians,
said, he did one of my favourite sketches ever, but I can't find it. He did one where he tied 2 bits of carpet to his feet. He said, why would you buy carpets? Just buy...
It'll be on YouTube somewhere.
I can't find it anywhere. Me and my brother used to watch that repeat in the early 90s.
Funny.
Unbelievable.
But he said in an interview, I think with Charlie Rose in about 2008, it's on YouTube, how do you make it? Everybody asks, he says, be so good they can't ignore you.
Yeah.
And he said, unfortunately, most people don't want that answer. They want, come on, which agent do I need? They want a shortcut.
What should I wear?
The truth,
What niche should I go? It's like, no, you've got,
The truth is, there isn't a shortcut.
Well, this is a question I want to ask you specifically then, and it's really interesting because in that talk now, as well as in the TED talk, what you're basically saying is, if you don't put the work in, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
But sometimes that's not a popular thing. I can't remember who it was, but there was an Instagrammer or a social media influencer who got in so much bother for kind of saying, let's put a bit more work in. Yeah. Now, I don't know the tone they said it, I don't know how but
I saw that,
But that is kind of...
It's my experience.
There's no other way to do it.
It's my experience.
If you wait for someone to give it, why would they give it?
I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you've read the book by Matthew Syed, the table tennis player, Bounce, The Myth of Talent.
I've got Black Box Thinking, but I've never got around to
Bounce is great. Bounce is brilliant. It's a really good book, and I believe in.
I think I've watched the short, but again, he talks about Beckham, who as a kid, just never didn't have a ball on his foot.
Yeah. Everybody uses the Mozart example. Well, Mozart was just a good piano player. Mozart had the best piano coach in Europe, his dad, Ludwig, I think, and he didn't write anything really of note till he was about 18 because he'd done his 1,000 hours of brilliant practice with his brilliant coach. He flogged himself into the ground to be a brilliant composer. He wasn't just gifted and I just don't see that usually. It's nearly always. And even when I got a job on local radio, pretty much out of the blue, and I used to get in before the guy who was on before me. So I was initially doing the afternoon show, and I came in at about 8:30 in the morning. He was on at 10 o'clock. He said, what the hell are you doing here?
And you just absorb it.
I said, you've got 20 years experience on me. I've got none. I've got to just prepare absolutely everything. I've got to work harder than you.
Yeah.
And funny enough, he's not on radio now, but
if you want his job.
Yeah. And it
practice
is
for the job you want.
So much about hard work.
So again, another thing I had in my mind I wanted to specifically ask then is whether it's stand-up or whether it's your radio show, whatever time of day, but the all important drive into work kind of show, you've got to lift people every day. Where do you get that inspiration from? Is it just... I can guess where you're going. You don't just wake up, roll up in like turn the mic on a minute to and just it doesn't just come out. You presumably have to put work into this.
Every night before the show, I spend about an hour on Twitter sharing with the listeners what I'm going to do. They send me responses back.
Because you'll say, what's your favourite three jellies and why, or whatever. Yeah.
And so
it's quite clever getting them to write your show, I think.
Well, a bit of it.
To inspire.
Well, it means you're off to a flying start. It means you've got material when you start.
Because also if the question doesn't get any feedback,
yeah.
so well, maybe I'll not make a big thing about it.
Yes, and I'll put so much thought into the question. So I don't just say, when were you last embarrassed? I try not to ask anything anyone else on the radio would ask. If I do come up with something like that, I'll twist it or turn it on its head or come at it from a different angle, because I put a lot of thought into it, because I don't want to sound like anyone else, and I want to just give the audience something a bit more to think about, because when I do, they come up with great answers or responses, and it makes it more interesting.
Because writing comedy must be a challenge when life itself can throw so much obscure, weird, and could not believe things out.
Yeah.
So if you're going to actually write something that's trying to be funnier than real life, that's a challenge, isn't it?
It is, but it's funny because sometimes you'll spend a lot of time thinking about it, and you'll spend a long time putting stuff together, but then I get a bit of mischief going on the show, and I'll think, right, I'm just going to do this now, and I haven't prepared this at all. But I know I've got all the other stuff backed up, so I can go back to that if it doesn't work. But usually that bit is the magic bit.
Yeah.
And I've just improvised something out of nothing. But again, you can only do that by practicing it for years and doing it and feeling comfortable with it.
Because most people will fully expect you to have, I'll say scripted, but planned what you're going to go through. But you still have to roll with it, don't you?
Yeah,
especially if you've got a live caller or the news changes on the day. It's
every day.
Hold on, I better not do that because something.
Well, we didn't know on Friday. Today is a couple of days after the Euros final. We didn't know if England were going to win. We didn't know if we were going to be picking people off the floor, and it was disappointment on Monday.
Yeah.
You don't know if there's going to be an event, trouble, cheating, someone pushing someone or something. And it was the perfect result. It was just such a feel-good show on Monday. We just basked in it. We loved it. Yeah. Then you got other days where it's not like that.
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit weird. I watched it, and then at the end, I'm so used to just turning the telly off. I was like, oh no, I better hang around. They're going to get, we'll get a cup here, won't they? What happens now? Will they get something? And I just didn't know what to do. It was a bit weird.
I cried. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. So Alfie, then. So another thing you said before we start there really was this idea of just say yes. Now, I know some people, and I'm conscious in this day and age, people get overworked and they do too much.
Yeah.
So can you explain what you mean by just say yes, though? You don't mean do everything you're told without question.
No, I've done that, and it can run out. I used to say yes to every charity gig, and then I realised I've got a bit of radio profile, and I'm quite good at doing charity gigs, and I love doing charity gigs, and then
you can't do 7 a week.
Well, that's what was happening, and somebody looked at me wall plan and went, tell you what, just put a green mark next to all the charity ones, and that's how many times you're not with your family.
Of course,
and so there are times when you have to control it. But when I say yes, I just think it's quite healthy to say yes to things you're not fully sure whether you can fully do them.
Is that stretching idea?
See what happens, yeah. It's how I became an artist quite recently.
Yeah.
There were two things happened at a conference. I love doing the Entrepreneurs Forum every year. I've hosted their annual thing for several years, and I love it. You interview incredible people, the founder of Your Sushi or Mr. John Timpson, these great people who've come up with great ideas.
Key cutting.
One of the most inspirational people I've ever spoken to. And I thought I really want to keep this gig, so I'll do something different each year. And then I was running out of things. I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll draw a couple of pictures. Now at this stage I wasn't drawing a lot, and I just drew a couple of, I think I drew a cartoon of Donald Trump, I'm not sure why, and they gave it the AV guys, they put it on the screen.
Also use that as like a
talking
little
point tool, and I just went, well, this guy does this or whatever. And After that gig, 2 people got in touch with me. One of them runs a gallery in Newcastle and said, I saw your pictures. Do you want to put some pictures on my wall? I went, oh, I've got none. And he went, well, you better draw some.
Get started. Yeah.
So I did. Even though I thought, I went to his gallery and went, I can't draw like any of these artists. But this man's invited me, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And another guy said, will you do a cartoon for me magazine? And I said, yes. Thinking it was, wow, I've never drawn a cartoon in a magazine. I'll definitely say yes. However, it turned out to be the front page design of a magazine. I would have probably said no to that, but I'd already committed.
But because you jumped in with both feet.
I jumped in with yes.
Yeah.
And I get in this boardroom and I think, why are we in a boardroom to do a cartoon? And then all these people filing this, so Alfie, you're going to design our front cover? And I just went, yes.
Because
I'd said yes.
Yeah, looks like I am.
But you know what happened? I became an artist.
Yeah.
Because I said yes when I wasn't qualified. Yeah. And I wasn't qualified on either. But I upped my game and I pushed it and just kept getting it better and better and better just by working at it.
Well, you have to. And again, I think it's not a popular bit of advice, is it?
No, nobody wants to hear that.
Put the damn hours in,
Yeah.
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to be good at something, you might have long legs and be built like Usain Bolt. Yeah. But you still got to practice running.
He would, without a coach and without
he doesn't just get out of bed like that.
He never wins a single medal.
Yeah.
He doesn't win anything without training, and he doesn't win anything without
and the
coach.
Dedication, the motivation, just the discipline to get every day.
Yeah.
So we're saying yes to things, the right things, little scary things, but not too scary. We're going to put the work in. You got anything else to say then? Like anything else you can give people as a tip or as an idea to just who they just think, oh, well, I'm in this lane and I want to get out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's realising, trying to anticipate before you get stuck, almost. I think, and
so you almost feel
I might just hang on, am I just about to wade through porridge or treacle here? And before you get there, you can almost make some plans, and then you can anticipate, and you can have a think about what might be next, rather than just get totally stuck and think, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing, and that's when I think you get really lost. Yeah. Whereas if you can get excited, I don't know, it's easy for me to say because I'm an excitable person, but if you can get excited about things, Michael Heppel's a great How to Be Brilliant. He's a great coach. And he teaches people how to be brilliant. But he says you can't be brilliant at everything, but pick 3 things you'd love to be brilliant at. Bet you can do it.
Plus now, most people for most things have got pretty much a worldwide audience. Yeah. You might do something weird and obscure, but out of 7 billion people, there'll be enough of them who like it to be able to do something with that, won't there?
Well, I think as well, there's more opportunity now than ever. Anyone has a channel. You know, before, when I used to do bits of telly and I used to do, you try and get things commissioned, TV or publishing and stuff like that, the gatekeepers have gone. Do it yourself now.
Go straight from self.
Yes.
Write your own content, self-produce, self-publish, edit, get it. Yeah.
Nobody might
the order
say
wrong there, but
it's a meritocracy. It's out there,
yeah.
And you can target people. And again, if you put the work in, it will take off. There's a comedy club in Liverpool called anyway, if you look it up, it's the #1 comedy club in Liverpool, and they basically put these cameras around hot water comedy, and they started filming it from different angles and put it all out on YouTube in little clips, and it went absolutely bananas. The compere has played Liverpool Arena, he's played the City Hall in Newcastle twice. Nobody's heard of him. But that's the power of YouTube. That's the power of doing it right. Yeah. But what people don't acknowledge is other comedians go, how did he do that though? Because they put the hours in. Yeah. They just work really hard.
So what about people who say that they just, well, sorry for you, but I've got, I'm a single parent with 3 kids and,
Yeah. I think everyone could find...
To shave 10 minutes...
I think, there's
some time.
Everyone who's written a best-selling book got up early, before everyone else was up, and they did an hour a day, or they found time somehow, somewhere. I've got 2 kids that we don't have. We've got no grandparents who live nearby who can just come and help. So we've been quite busy, and I still think there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. Because I can't remember who it is, but it may be someone like Gary Vee. I don't know if you know, but
I love him.
Does a lot of market stuff. He's like, so, you know, your business isn't working yet. Yeah. What did you do at the weekend? Oh, watch like Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Well, don't
watch it. Don't watch it. Yeah.
Why? Watching the telly is never going to build you a business.
How
never going to get you a job.
Waste?
Never going to build you a channel and audience, is it?
Yeah. If you want to watch Netflix all day, that's
I mean, I watch a lot of TV mainly, but then I'm not complaining that I haven't. Yeah.
Golf, very time consuming. You know, you've got to pick and choose, I think, what you do. But also, I think I'm lucky. I've always done what I loved.
Yeah.
So it's not like a job. It's not miserable. It's not like hard work. To me, it's a joy. You know, it's a pleasure.
Do you think, Alfie, that part of that is just in you as a self-confessed, excitable person? Do you think you could almost find excitement in anything? Or do you think you would?
Sadly, I'm annoyingly excited. My son put a very funny thing in my daughter's birthday card. He drew all these pictures inside. And he put a picture of me, and he put, of course, Dad will enjoy today more than everyone. Because that is part of I do think there is...
that helps, doesn't it?
Yes.
Positive attitude, positive mindset,
I do think it is... I had no money in London. I'd left a religious order. I just didn't have two pennies.
Which presumably didn't pay that well, and it's not like you built up a pot of money to leave with.
Yeah, London's a struggle when you've got no money, and it was tough, and I've been at the absolute bottom, but it is, I think, happiness is a state, and it is a state you can opt into and you can opt out of. But I have down days, I have struggle days, but it's still a choice. Sometimes if I'm having a struggle, sometimes I have to shake myself. Well, come on, you've got a choice here.
Because presumably, if you're just 10 minutes before your show starts, your game face needs to be on, and it's not that you can't tell your listeners you're having a bad day or whatever, but you don't want to make their day bad, do you?
No, it's my job.
You're there to entertain after all, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got, with radio, the breakfast show should be bouncy, should be having energy.
It's got to get people out of bed, hasn't it?
It's getting people to work, it's getting people to school, it's getting people through the breakfast, it's waking people up, and there is an element of fake it till you make. I cycle in every morning. Sometimes I got drowned and soaked through, have a shower, but then I do find the radio at 6 o'clock, I do find it quite, I'll have my coffee, I find that fine. What I do find harder is if I've done the radio in the morning, then I've got a awards due at night or a comedy gig, 8 o'clock, that's a bit, I'm normally going to bed about now. I've got to just have a couple of cups of coffee and we go again. That's hard work.
Yeah, and that's where you need to be a bit more selective as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there's no shame in asking for money for effort as well either, is there?
Yeah.
Okay then. So we talked about these 10-year tranches then, Alfie. So, 10 years as a monk, 10 years comedian, radio, art.
Yeah.
What's your latest fad then? What are you up to now? I say fad.
I've overstayed my welcome in the 10-year thing with the radio. So I've made, you're the first person I've told on one of these podcasts and outlets, I'm leaving the breakfast show. It's a huge.
You just told me that before we started as well.
It's a massive risk. It's a massive choice. It's my choice,
right?
Which doesn't happen very often at the BBC. It's usually a tap on the shoulder and that's your time. But the figures are okay, and they've been very happy with how I did things through the pandemic. But I do need to look at what's next, and I got an opportunity as well to, because of my art, which I'm absolutely loving. That's my new journey.
If you could do something all day, would it be art?
Yeah. And art takes all day. Art takes a long time, and I just haven't got any time to do it. And I want to draw more kids' books. I want to get into schools and show them. I want to do talks and then get my books out there after the talks. So hopefully that'll be next. And then I got an opportunity. I love the Customs House Theatre in South Shields. And the director of that, he's brilliant. I've taken my kids to Panto there every year. He said, I've seen your pictures. Would you design our Panto set?
Oh, the set?
The set.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I went over to tell him, no, this is interesting, because I thought that's too much for me. that's a huge...
So when are you doing it then?
I'm doing it.
Of course you are.
He talked me into his race Spencer. He's very convincing. Yeah. And I went over to tell him I couldn't do it, and he talked me into it there and then. And then when I told him I was going to be leaving the radio, he went, right, well, you can be in the panto as well. So I'm now designing the costumes.
Well, and the costumes.
I didn't know that when he told me I was doing the set, the costumes as well, which again, it's something a year ago I'd have just said you're off your rocker, you've got the wrong person. Now I've loved it. I've seen some of the costumes I've designed, made. So
the prototype.
We wore them for the publicity shoot. Unbelievable.
No way.
And they're going to me, what's it feel like seeing your costumes? I'm going, it's like I didn't do them. This is somewhat the Kate who's
made. You live your life in wonder.
Well, it is. That was awe. That's a good. I've never thought of that, but I think I do.
Yeah, it's great. No wonder your kids write in. Yeah. Well, that'll be. Well, that's not a bad thing. That's Wow. I mean, if you could bottle that.
Yeah, it's lucky. I've got that disposition. I think.
Well, you see, I challenge people when they say I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Because we'll not make this a life story, but when you say people don't do this when they come from where I came from, son of a miner.
Yeah.
Where's the luck there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about privilege. Like, was that privilege? Well, it's just as hard as any other start, I suspect.
I think I probably get a bit of my work ethic from my mum and my dad's charisma, and I'm a mixture of them both. I suppose
it's not lucky,
the
though,
nice
is it?
bits.
It's not lucky because
I
bet if all the I don't know how many were on your street, but if there was 50 houses, there might have been 20 kids growing up. There's not 20 kids all designing their own panto costumes. Well, not a customs house anyway. They might be making their own for the school panto, but it's not the same. So you can say it's luck, but.
Yes,
there's more than luck, isn't it?
I find that I've done a talk about luck as well. That's on YouTube, and I find that subject very interesting. I think it's sometimes a bit of luck, but again, it nearly always comes back to hard work.
The harder you try, the luckier you are.
Gary Player, love that. Yeah,
it's that simple, isn't it?
Yeah, and so that's it. We're doing Robin Hood at Christmas, and I'm playing all of the merry men. Because I said, when he said, well, you can be in it, I said, well, who do I play? He went, all of the merry men. So you come back on with the wigs and the hats and just lots of quick changes, and
that's
it'll
awesome.
Be knackering, but it'll be great.
Well, actually, it sounds like that's playing to one of your strengths, because you had a TV moment where you did.
Yeah, Britain's Got Talent. We did the impressions and 3 million hits on YouTube. We went great. So that'll be.
We can't promise you 3 million hits, by the way.
I bet you can.
But I could promise, but I don't want to break. I don't want to break that promise. It's the first time I met you in person properly. I don't want to lie to you straight away. But
But it's after that I need to now. This is August, the beginning of August. I've now got to worry about halfway through January and beyond, because the diary's empty, and so now I have to, go almost rewind sort of 15 years and go back to when I used to do a bit of everything, and hopefully that will add up to one thing, which is.
And do you think those bits of everything will be the thing you do now, or do you think one of them will rise to the top?
I would love one of them.
10 years
I would love. I think if I had a choice, I would love the art to.
Because I hear Celine Dion's looking for someone to design the stage for our next Vegas.
I'm free, Celine. Not free like that, but yes.
Yes, no, I'm really expensive, but available. I'm available and expensive.
I'm cheap. That's my problem. Yeah.
Well, so Alfie, then, if we can just part then, because we've taken over quite a bit of your time, and I'm really grateful for it. There's a lot of people who, like I say, they're in that middle lane still. They don't know whether to, kind of twist or stick or whatever the saying is. What would you recommend? Just something they can do tomorrow when they wake up and go, actually, right?
I absolutely say, what would make you a bit happier? What would make you a bit happier? And if it was getting out that job, what is that thing that would make you happier? Pursue it. I've got a pal right now, he does an office job he doesn't like, desperate to be a writer, and he talks about being a writer all the time. I just want to write. I just love to just pitch something. I just love to. I went, how much are you writing at the minute?
I was going to say, so how many hours a day is he writing?
None.
Yeah.
None. I said, right, you write for me now. When I hang the phone up, you've got your lunch hour. Write me a page.
Yeah.
Write me a page and send me a screen grab of it at the end of your lunch hour. And he did. And he said, thanks for that. I said, yeah, but I'm going to pester you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the day after, and the day after. Because that's the only way to be a writer, is to write. You will not become, the only way to become an artist is to draw. You can't think, I'd love that to happen. I've been with people all the time.
Jugglers don't pick them up and go,
well, yeah,
wait, look at that, I can do it.
They drop it loads of times,
yeah,
and then they stop dropping it, and it just carries on in the air.
And then it's on fire, then it's a chainsaw.
I'm not doing that in the panto.
Yeah, well, I'm disappointed. Well, cancel my tickets. Cancel my tickets. I'm not interested. If there's not chainsaws and fire and beavers and like badgers and stuff. No, so that's great. So I think it's James Clear in Atomic Habits that, if you read that, he talks about, if you want to change a habit, don't go big. Don't say I'm going to read a book a day.
Yeah.
Read a page a day.
Yeah.
And if you do that easy thing, you'll find that you'll read 2 or 3 without even trying. Yeah. So write something every day. Doesn't have to be a chapter a day. Doesn't that just something every day?
Well,
if you want to juggle, pick the things up every day.
Yeah, I had this kid's book in my head for ages, and it's called The Last Coal Miner.
Yeah.
And many years after the last pit's shut, there's a pit memorial wheel, and there's these 2 kids go up to it and they start climbing on it, and the wheel turns, and then the ground before them opens, and this cage comes up, and this coal miner's there, and they take them home. And that's the starting point for this. Now, I'd had this idea in my head for years, and it wasn't getting done. And I read a book called The One Thing.
Right.
It's brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. It was instrumental in me writing that book. So it almost gives you permission to do the thing you need to do to get it finished. So
to make the time.
Yeah, to make the time. So it gives you tell people, I can't do that. I've got an appointment. Who's the appointment with? Myself. Don't tell them that. Just say I've got an appointment. Yeah. So I had an appointment with myself every day on my cycle home from work in Gateshead Library, and I went in there and drew a picture every day and redrew it for 10 months. The book was finished. But it took 10 months of rearranging everything. Yeah. And I also got up an hour earlier and drew a picture before I went to the radio.
I remember seeing, because was it on Twitter you would post, they'd be on at obscure times, like 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning.
That was before I was going to work. I started. My wife,
and that's you
I didn't tell my wife.
The time.
Yeah.
But I'll grab the time from
just
somewhere.
to improve, and just signing up to things, being part of a club. Again, I'm using the drawing as an example. Caricatures, about 4 or 5 years, caricatures wasn't really my thing, and then I was doing a breakfast show it was quite quiet. It was on a New Year's Day morning where everybody's hungover, they just want music, so you're just chatting a bit between the songs. And I started doodling. I saw this caricature challenge on Facebook, and I started drawing this caricature, and I submitted it on the Facebook page and went, oh great, you're signed up for the month. We do 1 a day for a month.
I remember you mentioning this.
So I did it, and I'll tell you, my pictures towards the end of the month were 1,000,000 times better.
It's interesting then, because one of the things we've talked about a lot on this show is accountability. And one of the reasons, so the Accelerator team is business coaching.
Yes.
One of the reasons it works isn't that we give people great ideas. It isn't that we tell you the next best thing. It's just that we try to make sure you do the thing you said you were going to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's interesting that the daily caricature did that for you, but then you've done it with the lad and the writing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where's the next one? And then once you've had to deliver a couple of times to satisfy someone else, it starts to become a habit, and you get used to it, don't you?
Yeah,
that's really quite interesting. And again, that could, I don't know if this, I mean, could that accountability person be the same person as the one saying, give it a go?
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you couldn't, or I don't know, I haven't got a question there, but Do you know what I mean? If everyone's got the make go, well, why don't you try it?
Yeah.
I suppose if we can get better at being the one who says, and I'll help you.
I think it is easier for some people. I do think it is easier to do things together or with a coach, or with, as we said, using no one without a coach, no one without a sports psychologist, or these are everything added together. Some people are much better at working on their own. Some people have their own working habits as an artist or whatever. But I personally find if I build it into my day, if I build it into my life, it becomes normal, and I don't forget to do it. I pledge to do it, or I'm putting stuff out there on.
If you tell people there's going to be a new picture tomorrow.
Yes, I realised that I did this a while ago when I started doing comedy. I used to say things in magazines where they'd interview you. What do you do next? And I would say, I'm writing a play and it's going to be on at the Salford Playhouse, and when you see it in black and white in the magazine, you know the other comics have read it, and they come back and you go, oh, you're doing a play? Oh, I better do it now.
Well, I am now.
Yeah, you book the venue. You've got to write it then.
Can I just finish on, because we really must let you go, sorry Alfie. I heard you talking about, so this is drawing related, and I think it was Kevin Keegan you mentioned that you saw at the time. Can you just
Yeah.
You did something for Kevin Keegan with a drawing, didn't you?
I drew him, yeah. And again, it's sometimes you can increase your opportunities by spotting them, ahead of the event. So I compared Mid-Ewer. I love Mid-Ewer. And on the Sunday morning, I was going to do 10,000, 15,000 people at Ben's Park for the South Tyneside Festival. I was introducing him on, he's one of my heroes.
Yeah.
I thought, draw him. So and the in-laws were staying out. Remember, they went, "What are you doing?" I went, "Just draw Mid-Ewer." It looked really tragic and sad.
Well, what are you doing?
Because and then I knew I could have a photograph with me, a Midge, with me handing him the picture. I mean, he might have chucked it in the bin, but so then I did a charity gig I was doing with Keegan.
Yeah. And
I thought, draw him, and then that becomes one of the raffle prizes, becomes one of the auction prizes, and he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever see at one of these sort of things, because I've seen others, and he is the audiences for the night. And he said that on the table. So he sits down and he says, "I'm yours. Ask me anything. I'm yours all night." He was there till the very last. Not there
reluctantly.
It's another level of giving, and a real lesson in how to behave when you're that famous. It's no edge, lovely.
Well, I'll let you decide who's the more famous, but I feel like you've done that with us, to be fair, Alfie. You said yes. It took us a while to juggle to get dates, but that was, we're here, we've done it. Yeah. And honestly, I couldn't thank you more. There's only one thing that I think I could do.
Which is? Is
if you look behind you and put that sheet of paper
up. Where'd you get this? Who drew this?
Well, I'm going to be honest, we'll show the camera. So, Alfie Joey, everyone.
Who drew it?
So, my wife drew that for me.
No way.
Yeah. She really didn't want us to give you it, but I've assured her that it's good enough.
Is that pencil?
That's pencil.
It's fantastic. Yeah. That is great.
So there you go. And that was because I like to kid myself that I couldn't have done that. But you never know. Maybe I'll draw the next one.
The right coach.
Maybe I'll draw the next one.
She's great. What's she doing with the talent? What's she doing?
You should just do it. It's a hobby.
Well, she could easily take it somewhere and do something with it. But that's brilliant.
She'll be absolutely blown away. Thanks for
brilliant. She made me look a bit younger.
Well, we found an old picture because we did think we'll try and flatter you.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I'm so happy with that. Can I take that?
Of course you can.
Excellent.
It's yours. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I'm glad you like it. But I think that's an appropriate time probably to wrap up for today.
Brilliant.
If you're okay with that, Alfie.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed that. Brilliant. If you're in the middle lane, reach out, ask someone, listen to the voices who are saying give it a go. You never know, it might just be the best thing you ever do. On that, thanks very much, Alfie.
Marty, thank you.
Changing lanes.
Great podcast. Thank you.